What's up, guys? It is Paul, the MMA Shark, fresh out of 2022 UFC. Their 3-week break is over with. Saturday, it kicks off with UFC Vegas 67, 4 p.m. Eastern from the Apex. 12 fights to get 2023 started off. And I always say this every year. The first card of the year, the lines are a little bit sharper. You know, Vegas has had 3 weeks to prepare for a card like this. And, you know, some major line movement has occurred. You know, some of them overnight, some of them 2 weeks ago. Not a card we're going to go crazy on, except for the fights that I absolutely love. I'm going to do a little quick preview, as I promised I would throughout the year. Quick reminder, last year, 2022, I think I set the world on fire as far as MMA plays. I finished the year plus 494 units. That means if you're betting $10 a unit, you made $4,900. If you're betting $100 a unit, you made just shy of $50,000 looking at a text and hitting a button. It's that simple. Right now, I have a code embedded into the website, saving you half off your first month. I'm not talking now till January 30th. I'm talking a month, 30 days. You get them for $50 for the next 30 days. Then it renews at the standard rate of $109. But by the time it renews, you'll be a believer. And you could cancel anytime if you want to pass out on the massive profits that are to come. But the MMA Shark, our stock's at an all-time high. It has just been absolute fire. It's been a fire show, cashing on all cards, not just UFC. UFC, Bellator, PFL Challenger Series, which starts back up in 2 weeks. Dana White's Contender Series. I am a god at Dana White's Contender Series. Cage Warriors, LFA, Invicta, boxing, Fury grappling, bare knuckle boxing. You know, there's so many things that I throw plays at. And, you know, follow my system, follow my plays, and you'll see why I am the #1 ranked MMA handicapper in the world. With that said, we've got 12 fights coming at you from the Apex Saturday night. And fight one, you know, so many people are talking about it and they're going back and forth and people are driving themselves nuts on this fight. And, you know, it's a fight that people don't really need to go that crazy on. Sorry, I'm having a little computer issue here right now. Let me get that out of the way. You know, Priscilla Cachoeira versus Sijara Eubanks. Listen, this is the first UFC fight of the year. It's a fight that people are just driving themselves nuts saying, this line doesn't make sense. And, you know, Sijara, she's 7-7, bad cardio. Priscilla, she's a knockout artist. And, you know, Sijara right now is minus 240. To me, that's too expensive of a price. There's no way I am starting my year off by laying minus 240 on a 7-7 coming off a knockout versus a fighter that does have good power. You know, this fight can go one of two ways. Priscilla can catch her clean and knock her out, or Sijara can get on top of her and just wrestle her and grind her all the way through. The thing that's funny about this is over 2.5 is plus money right now. Over 2.5 rounds is plus 125. That's odd because the lines imply that Sijara Eubanks is going to win this fight, likely by a decision, yet over 2.5 is plus money. I'm not going to force anything on it. It's the first fight of like 1,500 of this year. So we'll see what happens there. Fight two, very interesting. Charles Johnson, good buddy of mine. He's walking around UFC Apex right now in an MMA Shark shirt. I have no intel on this fight. You know, I don't do it that way. You know, there's people that put a black eye on this sport and it's crazy. But one thing I will say is Charles Johnson opened minus 120. He skyrocketed 2 weeks ago on a random Tuesday to minus 550 in this fight versus Jimmy Flick. I will say that's incredibly too high. Charles Johnson's good. You know, he just got a split decision win over Zumagulov. Many argue that he did not win that fight versus Zumagulov. He made his UFC debut versus Muhammad Mokaev, and it wasn't a fight. I mean, Johnson proved that he couldn't be finished in that fight. You know, Mokaev landed 16 takedowns, but Charles got up from 12 of them. So Charles Johnson is very tough. He comes forward, heavy pressure, good boxing. Jimmy Flick is okay. You know, he's not a bad fighter. He's crafty. His jiu-jitsu is sleek. He always can find an opening and a way to find a submission. Do I see him submitting Charles Johnson? Absolutely not. since a lot of money has come, a lot of sharp action has come on Jimmy Flick. He's down to plus 280 right now. I like the price more when Charles Johnson was minus 150, 145, 150. I'm not going to lay minus 340 on Charles Johnson, who, again, good buddy of mine, friend of mine, talk to him all the time. Do I think that he's minus 340 in this fight? Do I think that's a good price? Absolutely not. He's arguably 0-2 in the UFC. Dangerous fighter. He gets better as the fight goes on. Look for Johnson to really turn up the heat in rounds 2 and 3 and not get submitted. But we'll have to see what happens on that one. Nascimento versus Carlos Hernandez. Nascimento right now is minus 330. Carlos Hernandez is plus 275. This is another one. I think it's an inflated line. I think a lot of these lines are extremely, extremely inflated. Is it because they think the favorites are just going to walk through the underdogs in this card? I necessarily don't think that's going to be the case. Looking back at Nascimento's previous fights, he's typically a decision fighter with very good pressure, and he has had a split decision victory in his last outing. But Carlos Hernandez, he's really good, man. He's had a good strength of schedule. His last loss happened in 2017. He won his first fight in the UFC by split decision over Vitor Altamirano. Nascimento, I get why he's the favorite in this fight. I don't get why he's a minus 330. Although, you look at who he's lost to, his only loss in the UFC has been to Tagir Ulanbekov, who is arguably a top contender in the division, and that was by a split decision. So he also lost to Paiva on Contender Series back in 2018. That was another split decision. He beat Jake Hadley. Jake Hadley, as you know, was 8-0 and like a number one prospect at the time. When he fought Hadley, he was a plus 175 dog. So a lot of respect on the side of Nascimento right now, but don't sleep on Carlos Hernandez. I'm not saying he's going to be a play. I'm saying that if you're watching this fight as an MMA fan, it's much of a closer fight than it appears. So Javid Basharat, 13-0, taking on Mateus Mendonca, 10-0. This is a good fight. We saw Javid Basharat. He's certainly making an impression. I don't think he had a very good strength of schedule headed into the UFC, headed into his fight on Dana White Contender Series, where he got the submission win in round 3. But what he's done in the UFC so far has been nothing short of spectacular. I'm not really high on Trevin Jones, but he did beat him. I am high on Tony Gravely, and Tony Gravely, D1 Appalachian State wrestler with significant heavy hands, and Basharat was able to just take care of him everywhere, on the feet, on the ground. Mateus Mendonca, not a bad fighter. Obviously, he's not a bad fighter. He's 10-0. He knocked out Ashik Ajim on Dana White's Contender Series. Another big win was over Pedro Nobre, the fight that ultimately got him on Contender Series. I mean, listen, he's 10-0. He's plus 280 and he's 10-0. He fought some decent competition. He didn't fight amazing competition headed into the fight. Again, a closer fight than the odds imply. I will say that I think Basharat does absolutely get the win on this, but I will also say I'm not laying that kind of juice to get the win. Again, I can't stress it enough. It's the first card of the year. There's no reason to lay juice on minus 350 fights, minus 315 fights. Just can't happen. So go to the next fight. You want to talk about juice. Mateus Rebecki, minus 740 over Nick Fiore. The comeback on Nick Fiore is minus 540. And, you look at someone like Nick Fiore, he's an undefeated fighter. The problem with Nick Fiore, he's coming out of New England with Calvin Kattar, very tough gym, very good gym, a lot of good training partners. Fiore has taken this fight versus Rebecki on extremely, extremely short notice. 2, his strength of schedule has been absolutely poor. He's that local regional fighter that sells tickets and fights at home and gets a body in front of him. He fought Jay Ellis twice. The first time he fought Jay Ellis, Jay was 15-91. The second time he fought Jay Ellis, Jay was 15-98. He beat Jerome Nickel 3-9. He beat George Shepard 15-13, who was in his 40s at the time. And the fight that ultimately got him into the UFC, he knocked out a 5-19 in the first round. So, One thing with Nick Fiore, though, he's got very, very good jiu-jitsu. He's done a lot of grappling and jiu-jitsu tournaments, and, he's going to need to use that versus Mateus Rebecki. Mateus Rebecki was my Dana White Contender Series 2022 Play of the Year. I am so high on this kid. And he ate a head kick from hell in this fight versus Rodrigo Lidio in the first round. And after he ate this head kick, it was just a takedown, and he almost looked like Khabib on the ground. He was just able to maul him and choke him out. So I don't think we're going to see the judges in this fight. I think Fiore is not ready for this fight. I think it's an extremely, extremely large step up in competition. I think Rebecki is ranked by the end of the year. I think Rebecki is a very, very well-known name by the end of the year, and we'll have to see what happens there. Final prelim, we have Abdul Razak Alhassan, who is known as a prolific knockout artist. He is 11-5. All 11 of his wins have come by first-round stoppage, taking on Claudio Ribeiro. Claudio is awesome. He looks so good on Dana White's Contender Series. He's coming out of Brazilian black tie. If you saw his win over Ivan Valenzuela on Dana White Contender Series, he was cornered Valenzuela by Sean Strickland, and Strickland literally called it. He said the left hook's coming, and before you knew it, the left hook came. 25 seconds into the fight, he flatlined him. He had a good level of competition that he fought to get into the UFC. He knocked off a 24-20, an 8-6, an 2-0, an 8-3, an 9-7. Lost a split decision to a 4-1, but that was back in 2018. All of his wins, just like Abdul Razak Alhassan, have come by knockout. One advantage he has in this fight, Claudio, is the age, the youth. But a big advantage that Abdul Razak Alhassan is bringing to this fight is experience, and especially octagon experience. Much tougher strength of schedule. He just took on Joaquin Buckley. He lost. Alessio Di Chirico flattened him with a head kick in the first round. 3 losses prior to that before the Di Chirico win. He lost to Malkoun, he lost to Chaos Williams, and he lost to Munir Laziz. He did knock out Nico Price in the first round in 2018. And now Bellator fighter Sabah Hamasi, he knocked him out in the first round twice. So Charlie Ward, he knocked out in the first round. So Abdul is a threat in the first round in this fight. You look at him, he's got some of the biggest legs in the division. If that lactic acid gets flowing later in the fight, he's in deep waters with Claudio. Claudio is there for real. One prop that I won't release because I think it's a little juicy, but I think it's a surefire thing. And it's that fight not to start round 3. It's minus 200. I do not see that fight starting round 3. I have already texted my subscribers my max diamond play, and it happens to be on this fight. Like I said, who's going to land cleaner, who's going to land first? That might be the answer to who wins that fight. But, some pretty good prelims. They're really building off the contenders from Dana White Contender Series on this card, and that's kind of expected. A lot of these guys really deserve the spot, and we'll see what happens. Next one, again, very overinflated line. Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Rony Barcelos. Rony Barcelos is plus 700. That just blows my mind. Yes, he's 35 years old. Yes, he lost to Victor Henry. And then we saw at the end of the day, Victor Henry isn't all that good, considering he just lost to Rafael Sunsao, which no one saw coming. Not even me, and I'm the best in the world. But Umar Nurmagomedov opened minus 200 on this fight. That was low. I think it probably 300 is probably the money, minus 350. But, we're implying that Rony Barcelos doesn't have a chance in this fight with him being plus 700. And, I'm not sitting here saying he's going to win the fight. I'm just sitting here saying there's some value on that. Rony Barcelos has very, very good takedowns. He has very good striking. He beat Syed Nurmagomedov when Syed was 13-1. This is almost like a flashback to that. I know Umar has looked like a bona fide killer lately. He didn't finish Nate Maness, but Nate's very tough. Tony Gravely almost had Nate finish, but the bell saved him, and Nate ended up finishing Gravely. But he did finish Sergey Morozov. He finished Brian Kelleher. So he's good. He's a Nurmagomedov. they train differently. They're built differently. But please don't go out there and put a bet on something minus 950, especially when I'm not even saying it's, there's MMA fighters that are minus 950 that we know are going to win the fight. We don't know that Umar is going to win this fight. I'm not sitting here saying Honey Barcelos is going to beat him, but crazy, crazy stuff to have a line at minus 950. Think of NFL, if a line's minus 950, that team's like a 21-point favorite. So, absolutely insane. Another one, underinflated line. Ketlin Vieira taking on Raquel Pennington. Everyone's got this impression in the back of their mind. Ketlin Vieira knocked off Holly Holm. Ketlin Vieira is a stud. Ketlin Vieira was held against the fence against Holly Holm, and in my opinion, definitely did not beat Holly Holm. She landed shots when she had to, when she wanted to. She scored against the fence, but I don't sleep on Rocky. I don't sleep on Raquel Pennington. Look who her losses have come to. A decision loss to Holly Holm, a decision loss to Germaine Durandamine. She got knocked out in the 5th round versus Amanda Nunes. She lost to Jessica Andrade. So she has fought only the best and lost to only the best. Coming off wins over Macy Chiasson, Aspen Ladd, Pannie Kinsat, and Marianne Renault. Ketlin Vieira from Canada, very tough fighter, very scrappy fighter, knows how to win fights. Coming off the win over Miesha Tate and Holly Holm. She did take a decision loss to Yanni Kunitskaya before that, and she beat Sijara Eubanks by decision prior to that. And let's not forget, she was knocked out by Irene Aldana in 2019. So everyone looking at this fight that Ketlin Vieira is free money. Sign up, www.themmashark.com. Save half off your first month. I will say that's an extremely exciting fight. I just think it's closer than people are saying. Punahele Soriano quickly becoming a fan favorite, taking on Roman Kopylov. I think this is a really good fight at 185 pounds. I think it's a really close fight. Punahele Soriano, let's call him Puna because that's what he goes by. He's a killer, be killed fighter. He comes very forward with aggression. He lost the first round to Dalcha and then knocked him out in the second. He did drop a split decision to Nick Maximov, a fight that, if he's where Vegas thinks he is as far as lines and his career, he should have won. He lost a decision fight to Brendan Allen. That's never a bad fight to have on your resume. He knocked out Dusko Todorovic. I think that was his signature win. He's definitely got knockout power. Roman Kopylov, very good jiu-jitsu fighter. He's very strong. He did knock out Alessio Di Chirico last fight. Poor Alessio. Poor Italy, my Italian roots. It seems like everyone's been knocking him out. He got submitted by Carl Robertson. That's a bad loss to have. And he lost a decision to Albert Duraev. So Punahele Soriano, could he knock him out? Maybe. But Kopylov's never been knocked out. He's been submitted once to Carl Robertson. I think it's an intriguing matchup on this card. I think it's definitely an interesting fight. The most interesting fight comes in the co-main event. Just a reminder, there's the website right there, www.themmashark.com. It's big. I text these plays out. You're dealing with me directly throughout the whole fight card. Plus 494 units in 2022. There's all websites reaching out to me. They want me to submit my plays on their forums because, I'm 6 times their leader. I'm not willing to do that. The guy that's plus 62 units, that's the top in the world, let him be the top in the world. My subscribers know that the top in the world is the MMA Shark. And, you're dealing with a family-owned business. Me, my wife, my son. My son, he's 15 years old. He does so much for it. And, it's almost comical. He does shirt inventories and works on, the promo to this video he came up with. And my wife does all the imaging and the shipping and fighter sponsors and endorsements. And, there's so much to this. And, we give back a lot. You look at all the fighters that the MMA Shark sponsors. We're blasted all over Fight Pass. We're going to be on a lot of LFA shows. So we donated $10,000 to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia with winnings from the December 10th card. The subscribers sent over $5,000-$6,000. We matched it, sent them a check for $10,000, unanimously matched for $20,000. It was double the impact, and that felt really good to be able to do, especially after such a dominating year. I did have losing months in 2022. July was a pretty even month until the end of the card, the end of the month. The last card put us negative 3 units. August was a bad month. We were minus 40 units in August. So, that's okay. I say to my subscribers, you got to be able to take a win the same way, a loss the same way you can take a win. I'm not saying out here that I'm the MMA god, that I never lose. I'm going to have cards this year that go for minus 15, 20 units. I'm going to have cards this year that go for plus 40 and plus 60 units. So I'm not just selling picks. I'm selling a system that has just been winning. And, I'm now in my 8th year of doing this, and we've never had anything close to a negative year. So averaging between 250 and 600 units a year. So let's keep it going. Co-main event, Dan 50K Ige taking on Damon Jackson. Damon Jackson in his second stint with the UFC, training out of Fortis MMA, and he's shocked the world last fight. As we know, he had a death in the family just prior to that, but he went out there and knocked out Pat Sabatini in the first round. That was plus 3,000. Prior to that, he defeated Dan Argueta. He submitted Kamala Kirk. He beat Boston Strong, Charles Rosa. His only loss since 2019 has come to Ilia Topuria. His stock is really high right now. And everyone's saying, Dan Ige is the much better ground guy. He is. Dan Ige is a much better striker. He is. Dan Ige is coming off 3 losses in a row. Jackson's coming off 5 wins in a row. That's also true. But yes, Dan Ige, his 3 losses in a row that he is coming into, one was versus Korean Zombie, one was versus Josh Emmett, and one was versus Movsar Ivalov. So, and all 3 were by decision. So these people aren't going out there and finishing Dan Ige, but he is showing holes in his game where he's losing by decision. Man, this is a tough fight. This is a tough fight. So I had to go to Tapology just to see where people are at on this. And it's surprising to me, 54% are on Dan Ige. Of that, 45% have Ige winning by knockout. 46 are on Jackson. Of that, 65% are by decision. I want to see how these guys look on the scale tomorrow because Damon Jackson's incredibly large for the division. Dan Ige is the shorter fighter. Looking just to make sure that Dan Ige is giving up a 4-inch height advantage. Damon Jackson, they both have a 71-inch reach advantage. So this is as close of a fight as it can get. I'm checking to see if the odds have moved on this yet. I have a feeling there's going to be some line movement on this. Some money coming in right now on Dan Ige. He's minus 120. Damon Jackson is plus 100. So about as close as it can get on this. These are the ones I get right, and I'm not ready to make a prediction on it. If I was, I would have texted a play out already. Snapple should sponsor me. Come on, Snapple. Get a check in the mail. It's going to be a good fight. It's going to be a really good fight. And like I said, it's the first card of the year. I'm not forcing it. We have a huge UFC next Saturday night. Some big-time fights where they get kicked off of their pay-per-view season. So definitely excited for that. Fight 12 on this card. The main event, as everyone in the MMA world knows by now, Kevin Gastelum is out due to a mouth injury. And I saw the picture. He's got like a hole right here and missing a tooth. That looked like a legitimate injury. Nasruddin Imobov was minus 170, taking on a Gastelum. He is now minus 135 versus Strickland. He opened up at minus 170 versus Strickland, and immediately money came in on Strickland. But now more money is starting to come in on Imobov. Strickland is plus 115 right now. Interesting fact is over 4.5 rounds is plus 110 in this fight. Listen, Sean Strickland was my play versus Jared Cannonier. To this day, I'll say I think Sean Strickland did enough to win that fight. Did he lose that fight because he got cut from one shot that he took? Maybe. Unfortunate. I like Sean Strickland. He's gritty. He doesn't have to deal with a weight cut on this. He was not hurt in the last fight. But, if this fight goes to a decision, I worry for Sean Strickland. He doesn't throw enough volume on it. And he just kind of does enough to survive besides the Pareja fight where he got knocked into next Tuesday. I'm not high on Imobov yet. He didn't look good in the third round versus Joaquin Buckley. Buckley was resurgent in that round and was teeing off on him. And this is a 5-round fight. Sean Strickland is used to 5-round fights, but he's taking it on short notice. So something I'm not ready to put a play out on yet, but a little background on that fight is, Sean Strickland doesn't have to cut to 185. Imovov's got to change his game plan ever so slightly. Gastelum may have had a more heavier wrestling ground game approach. Gastelum's got the bigger one-punch power, but Strickland is a better fighter than Gastelum. It's certainly a tougher test for Imobov, and the line is currently reflecting that. So if you want to cash on these plays and all my plays, head over to www.themmashark.com. Get yourself a subscription, $50 for the first 30 days. It's like buying 2 cups of coffee a week, but making money instead of just drinking the coffee and having it gone. If you sign up in January and don't profit, reach out to me. We'll get you in February. But my months are 82% plus profit. I see January going no other way. We hit a plus 400 boxing play last weekend, dropped a couple units on LFA, but believe it or not, 2022 is already in the profit, and UFC hasn't even started yet. So again, I'm Paul, the MMA Shark, checking out www.themmashark.com. Check it out. Get yourself a subscription. It will be the best investment you make in 2023. Happy New Year. Wish nothing but the best for everyone, and these videos will keep coming. Let's get it, guys.